Hello everyone, this is Karthik from Intellipaat. Welcome to Intellipaat's live webinar on implementing AWS Data Pipelines. Today's webinar is conducted by Mr. Ravi, who is a DevOps engineer at Planview. He has over 8 years of experience in the IT industry, and he has worked on various platforms like Windows and Linux OS. He has worked on Amazon Web Services, Git, Ansible, Jenkins, Kubernetes, and many more things. So let's welcome Mr. Ravi into the session. I'm sure he has a lot of wisdom to share with us. Mr. Ravi, over to you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Karthik, and welcome everyone to this webinar. So what about this webinar is all about? So here we are going to talk about cloud computing, as Karthik has already given my introduction. Let me help you out with the agenda, like what we are going to talk about. So today we are going to talk about data pipeline. So data pipeline is one of the service in the AWS, but before moving to the data pipeline, there is a very simple question which comes into our mind: why cloud computing? Because nowadays we are seeing that companies are migrating to cloud computing, companies are adopting the culture of cloud computing. So do you think that there is any specific reason that why companies are adopting cloud computing, or why there is a need to groom ourselves, to train ourselves on cloud computing? Server setup cost is reduced, more secure. Other than that, so there can be lot more pointers. Maintenance cost is getting reduced. You don't need to invest any capital. You don't need to guess the capacity. Okay. Security is more, scalability is more. All these factors will be there. Okay. But I believe that there is one of the most important reason due to which companies are migrating to the cloud computing. And if I will write that in a simple statement, that is making best use of their skill set. I feel that is the reason companies are migrating to AWS cloud or any cloud. Okay. Now, this is a very simple statement, making best use of the skill set. What's the meaning of that? If we will go into a technical term, or if I have to write a technical statement here, I can simply say companies are moving to cloud to be more agile and come early in the market. Now, this is something which is a technical statement. Okay. So this is also one of the advantage or benefit you will see when you will talk about cloud computing benefits, when you will talk about cloud computing advantages over the traditional business application. But I always feel this is a most important, and this is a major reason companies are adopting this cloud culture. Companies are migrating their existing infrastructure to the cloud. Let's understand this with a very simple example. So see, I'm taking an example of an insurance company. Okay. Let's say the name is example.com, or anything you can say, abc.com, xyz.com, whatever you like, you can take the name of the company. So I'm talking about an insurance company, and now I am saying before cloud. I'm taking two scenarios here. So before cloud, this insurance company was dedicating their time for the business growth. That was a one thing. And they were also dedicating their time, dedicating their productivity for the maintenance of infrastructure. Okay. If I will take the next scenario, which is after cloud or after adopting cloud, what can I write here? So after adopting cloud, this can be the situation. The situation can be the same company is now focusing on business growth, because this maintenance of infrastructure part has been outsourced to someone. That maintenance will be easier. Maintenance will be easier means you're outsourcing this maintenance part to any provider. So I can say here this part is outsourced. If this part is outsourced, don't you feel that now companies can focus more on their business growth, because they don't have to spend time, they don't have to spend cost, they don't have to spend efforts in maintenance of the infrastructure? When they are spending more time in the business growth, it means they can come early in the market. If they had to launch a product earlier, they were focusing both on business growth as well as maintenance of infrastructure. But due to the more productivity which they can provide at the point of business growth, they can come early to the market. So the technical statement which I will put here, why companies are migrating to the cloud, that is be more agile and come early in the market. So that is the major reason. And whenever someone asks you, all these things are there, like security, maintenance, scalability, high availability, capital, accessing the resources on demand. But this is the primary reason why companies are adopting the cloud culture. Okay. Now, companies have adopted the cloud culture. So if I will ask you a basic definition of cloud computing, like what cloud computing is, can I write like this? Cloud computing is on demand delivery of IT resources over the internet with pay as you go pricing. Means I'm writing few technical keywords here. Those are on demand, that's the first one. Provisioning of IT resources over the internet and with pay as you go pricing. Okay. So now this definition help us out in order to understand end-to-end cloud computing definition in a single statement. On demand means whenever there is a need, I can demand for that. I don't need to guess the capacity in advance. In the traditional applications, we're guessing the capacity in advance. Here we can say, whenever there is a need, provisioning of IT resources means provisioning of infrastructure over the internet means online. You don't need to visit anywhere. You don't need to go to a market to purchase some hardwares to configure them as a part of your facility or data center and then start using them. Here you are accessing the resources online. And with pay as you go pricing means, that whatever you are using, you're only paying for that. You're not paying for the idle capacity. Here I'm not paying for the idle capacity. So that is one statement which is giving me an idea about cloud computing. Okay. Now, in the cloud computing, why I have used this definition? Because I want to tell you that we are accessing the services over the internet or online. You can understand or you can relate that in a way. Let's say I'm not owning a flat. My job is like I'm getting a regular transfer from my company, okay, on a monthly basis or on a yearly basis, let's say. Okay. So in that case, what I'm doing, I'm staying in a flat and I'm paying the rent for that. So whatever services I'm using, I'm paying the rent for that part. Okay. Similar thing is here. I am not owning anything in the cloud computing. I'm paying the charges or paying the amount for the services I am using. That is a cloud computing. Now, there are some components because before starting about data pipeline, I want to help you out why there is a need of pipeline, why we want to create a pipeline. I always believe that there are some components which I always call a critical component required to design any application. If you have to design any application, any architecture, these components will be mandatory. And what are these? Compute, storage, databases. You can have networking. I believe these are the fundamental components. Okay. Compute means servers. Storage means space. Databases means storing information and performing query. Okay. And networking means interaction or integration. So if you will see that I have written or I have noted down some of the component here: compute, storage, databases, networking. Means time to time I will have to integrate these resources together. There can be a requirement if I will take a single component only, let's say database. Okay, we all know what database is. We use database in order to store the information. It can be structured data, it can be unstructured data. Okay, now I am using two type of databases. Let's say I am using MySQL, I am using PostgreSQL. Okay. There can be a need if I am doing a migration from my on premises to the cloud. Okay. In the on premises, I was using one distribution of a database, and now in the cloud, I am using another distribution of the database. So if I have to migrate the data from my traditional application to the cloud, in that case, there can be a requirement that I will set up a pipeline. I will set up an automated pipeline because companies always believe in automation. Nowadays, companies are adopting this culture of DevOps. DevOps means they are provisioning their infrastructure with the help of code. Instead of manual efforts, which the customers were doing earlier, which the developers were doing earlier to provision the resources, to provision the infrastructure. Now companies is believing on writing the scripts and executing those scripts in order to automate the steps. So pipeline will be required when we want to automate the things. Automation can be, I want to copy the file from one bucket to another bucket. I want to load the data from database to some storage service to keep a backup of that, so that in case of any disaster, I can restore the data from my storage device to the database. Okay. Let's move back to the presentation which I have created for all of you. So here I have taken few information about data pipeline, and with respect to tutorials, I'm going to pass on some references to all of you. Okay. Because like when I will create a data pipeline, I should have a knowledge on AWS services. I should have a knowledge on lot of AWS services. So I will help you out with the components we are using in a data pipeline, and I will also show you in console how it look like, with the references to different tutorials which you can practice when you feel that you are comfortable with these services. Okay. So if I will explain data pipeline, it's a web service that help you reliably process and move data between different compute and storage resources, as well as on-premises data sources at specified intervals. Just now I have given you one example. I have a database running on on-premises server. I want to migrate the data from the on-premises to the AWS, because I am taking AWS as a cloud provider here. That can be one of the use case. Another use case can be, let's take two services. Let me talk about two services. One is DynamoDB and another is S3. So this S3 is a simple storage service. It's a cost-effective storage option in AWS. And this DynamoDB is a database service. So there can be a use case, means I have to move the data from this database to S3. That I have to do. Okay. So there can be a lot of use cases that we have to process and move the data between different categories, between compute, storage, between on-premises, data stores, data sources. I can make use of data pipeline. So it is providing me an automation. I am defining the steps I have to execute, I have to perform, and whenever I want to run this pipeline, I can schedule that. Let's say I have to make a copy every weekend, or let's say every day at a particular time interval. I can schedule that, and at that particular time interval, this data pipeline will be executed and you will get your results which you are looking from this particular use case. So with AWS Data Pipeline, you can regularly access your data where it's stored, transform and process it at scale, and efficiently transfer the results to AWS services such as DynamoDB, EMR, RDS, and S3. I will give you one-liner description of these services, what these services are all about. DynamoDB, we had seen in the previous slide, it's a NoSQL database service. If we talk about EMR, which is an elastic map reduce, what this elastic map reduces? This elastic map reduce provide us managed Hadoop distribution in AWS. Or in simple way, you can say this is used for data analytics. Okay, it's used for data analytics. This RDS is used for relational databases, and this S3 is used for storage. It provides you cost-effective storage option. Okay. The following component of data pipeline work together to manage your data. So basically, when we create a pipeline, what are the component we need to think about? So I've taken some of them. So we need to define a pipeline definition that specify the business logic of your data management. So here we are defining the logic we want to perform. Then we have a scheduler. So a pipeline schedule and run tasks by creating EC2 instances to perform the defined work activities. So here, if you will see, there is a word called EC2 instances. This EC2 provide us virtual machines. It is providing us virtual machine or computing power. Okay. You upload your pipeline definition to the pipeline and then activate the pipeline. So basically, if you're activating the pipeline, you have to define the rule. Do you want to run it at a particular schedule, or do you want to run it immediately when you're activating it? Then we have a task runner. It polls for the task and then perform those tasks. For example, task runner could copy the log files to S3 and launch EMR cluster. I can see that here you must be seeing different AWS services, because the goal of this webinar is to help you out that how you can make use of an AWS as a cloud provider to perform your day-to-day tasks or to make yourself skilled in the cloud computing. So now think in that way. Let's say if you are already working into IT companies, or if you are doing your studies and you're planning to join any IT company, you will join any company on a particular role. You can be a developer, you can be an architect, you can be an administrator, or you can be on some other roles, a security specialist, okay, a network specialist, okay. There can be different roles you can join in a company. Now, the thing is that, like, on a basis of a particular role or a particular post you are joining in a company, you have to perform the things. So maybe you are encountering the servers, maybe you are dealing with the storage services, maybe you are dealing with the databases. So these are the part of a day-to-day life. So here we are getting all these services to be accessed online over the internet. Means if we have to request something, let's say if I'm doing a POC, I'm doing an R&D, okay, and now I have to test that proof of concept which I have developed in my local machine, I can simply provision a server in minutes. I will show you that, okay. So here I have taken a use case. What this use case is, you can use data pipeline to archive your web server log to Amazon Simple Storage Service each day and then run a weekly EMR cluster over those logs to generate a traffic report. So this use case is about data pipeline. Okay, in this data pipeline, what exactly we are achieving? We are reading the logs from a server. Now, what are logs? Logs are simply messages generated by application or services. And then we are storing these logs in a bucket, in a storage service, which is S3. And later we are using another service called EMR to analyze these logs. I told you EMR can be used as a data analytics service. Okay. Okay, yeah. So for that, backend team can help you out with the content. Okay. Yes. So if you will talk about pricing with respect to a particular service, so whenever we are using a service, let's say if you have to start practicing the AWS services, the first thing I will suggest you what you can do, if you don't have an AWS account yet, or if you are new to AWS, you can start creating a free tier account. You can create a free tier account in the AWS. Okay. As a part of a free tier account, you will get certain offerings. And under these offerings, you can perform the demonstrations in the AWS up to certain limit free of cost. Okay. So you can explore this, and I will also pass one article creating AWS account step by step. Okay. So AWS offer you some services under certain quota with free of cost. So you can use those quota in order to practice, in order to demonstrate different services in AWS. Okay. You can refer this. Create and activate an AWS account. How do I create and activate a new AWS account? So those who are new to AWS, I would like them to explore this so that they can start practicing these services. Okay. Please refer this. If you don't have an AWS account yet, this is a step-by-step documentation which you can follow in order to create your AWS account. Okay. After this, I'm going to pass on few more references which I always find very relevant. Like if I have to start my journey in AWS, if I have to start my journey in cloud computing, because I know that there's always a question in our mind, what role we should join in a cloud computing, or what role we should groom ourselves on in a cloud computing. So there are different tracks for that. I will pass you that for your references. Let me quickly complete that and let me show you how data pipeline looks in console, how you can configure data pipeline. Okay. So see, whenever you are using any service, one option or one question which always comes into our mind, that is pricing. Are we going to charge? Are we going to get some charges, get some cost by AWS for using this service? Okay. So you should always explore the pricing. Till the time you are in AWS free tier, AWS free tier provide you different offerings: a 12-month free tier, always free, and free trial. So 12-month free means for 12 months of time, you will have certain quota on services which you can use in order to explore that. Always free means again you have a quota free of cost, which is always free till the time you are an active AWS customer. And finally, we have a short-term trial. So short-term trial are like a subscription-based model. Means, let's say if I have to practice one service, one machine learning service, so I am going to get a 2 months free trial. After that, I'll have to pay the charge. Okay. So I will recommend you, like whenever you are using a service and you are under a free tier uses, you should explore that service on a free tier page, the documentation which I have passed you in the chat window. Okay, that will give you a pricing for any service. If you want to know about the pricing, very simple way is just simply type here. Let's say if I have to explore data pipeline pricing, so I can simply type here data pipeline pricing, and here I can get an idea about data pipeline pricing. It's giving you an options. If you are under free tier, these are the things, okay, which you have to keep in your mind. And these are the pricing calculation based on the regions. So currently you have this data pipeline service available in only these geographical locations. Let's say if I have to use a service in Mumbai, this service is not available. So first of all, I will have to choose the location out of these, and then I can create a data pipeline. So they have given, if you are performing any activities which is running on AWS, you will have to pay $1 per month for high frequency and $0.60 per month for low frequency. Okay. And if there are inactive pipelines, like those are inactive, you're not using them, you will have to pay $1 per month. Okay. That is when you will come out of a VTR. Okay. One more thing which you can make yourself aware about, that is pricing calculator. So you always have this option. So let's say if I have to create a pricing estimate for my data pipeline. Let's say I'm a part of a sales team. Okay. So now I can ask the team who want me to provide the estimate with the configurations I have to put here. So it will ask you some questions. What are the questions? And on the basis of those questions, it will generate an estimate. Okay. It will generate a monthly estimate, which you can provide to your manager, which you can provide to your team, so that they can get an idea that on the basis of configuration, they are looking for what will be the charges generated by AWS for this particular service. Okay. So here, if you will see about pricing, you can see with web services, you pay only for what you use. For data pipeline, you pay for your pipeline based on how often your activities and preconditions are scheduled to run and where they run. If your AWS account is less than 12 months old, you're eligible to use the free tier. The free tier includes 3 low frequency preconditions and 5 low frequency activities per month at no charge. Okay. So these are some of the pointers with respect to pricing of data pipeline. If you will see benefits, in terms of benefits, it's providing us the reliability. So it's built on distributed, highly available infrastructure designed for fault. So when we are saying designed for fault tolerant, it means we can come out of any interruption. If there will be any interruption, then we can come out of that. It can tolerate the interruption. So that's why it can be trusted. Okay. Other benefits it will take, easy to use. So creating a pipeline is quick and easy via drag and drop console. So you can make use of templates and then you can create a pipeline using a drag and drop console. You have a console called edit your architecture, and there you can edit it. Okay. Flexible data pipeline allow you to take advantage of a variety of features such as scheduling, dependency, tracking, and error handling. Scalability, data pipeline makes it equally easy to dispatch work to one machine or many in serial or parallel. So when we use this keyword scalable means we are meeting the change in demand. If the demand is high, if the traffic is high, the capacity should be accordingly managed in the background. So if I'm saying an application is scalable, a system is scalable, so that system will have to deal with the increase in demand, deal with the increase in traffic. Okay. Low-cost data pipeline is inexpensive to use and is built at a low monthly rate. Transparent. So here you have full control over the computational resources that execute your business logic, making it easy to enhance or debug your logic. Okay. So these are some of the benefits I have taken for data pipeline. So what is an idea we have got from the data pipeline? The idea we have got from data pipeline is Using data pipeline, we can automate our day-to-day tasks. Let's say I have to store the logs from my server to a storage. I can do that. I have to analyze it using an EMR service. I can do that. So I will have to create a pipeline. I will have to define the task which I want to perform, and then I can run it on a particular schedule, or I can run it at the time of activation. Okay. Let me take you to the console and let me show you how it looks like. See, when you will create your account in AWS, this will be your landing page. This is my AWS account. So this will be your landing page. It's called console home. It's known as console home. Okay. So I will suggest, like, those who are starting or those who wants to start in AWS, they should create a free tier account. And please follow the link which I have provided to you in the chat window to create and activate the AWS account. Okay. Because you will be able to explore the AWS services using the free tier account. Okay. Now I get a question so many times that what after 12 months if that free tier will be expired. One way is, if you again want to practice under a free tier limit, you can create an account using different email ID, because you need an email ID, a password, and a payment method in order to create an account. Okay. See, so this is a console home. Here you can manage various dashboards, various widgets. Okay. So if you will see, I have certain widgets recently visited. What are the services I have recently visited? A widget for AWS Health for cost and usage, which is showing me a daily cost and a monthly cost. We have other widgets too. Okay. Now, if you have to search a particular service, first thing, you can type a name in the search bar. That is one way. Let's say I have to search for data pipeline. You can start typing the name in the search bar and it will show you all the suggested options. All the suggestions will be available to you. Okay. Other way is expand the services. In the services, either you can go to all services and you can alphabetically search for a service. Let's say I'm talking about data pipeline. So this is a data pipeline service. Other than that, these are the service categories. If you want to explore a service under a particular category, you can do that. Okay. You can also mark any service as a favorite so that whenever you want it, you can get it from here. Let me show you. Let me mark it as a favorite. So now this service is available on my dashboard. So I can directly go to data pipeline from here. So if you are new, like if you don't have any pipeline which is already existing, you will get this page, get started now. So data pipeline help you move, integrate, and process data across AWS compute and storage resources as well as your on-premises resources. You can get started now. You can give a name, let's say demo pipeline. You can choose a source. So there are multiple ways. Either you can choose a template. So these are some of the templates which are available. Getting started using shell command activity, run CLI command, export DynamoDB table to S3, import DynamoDB backup data from S3, and so many use cases. Okay. For you, I have this thing. There are different tutorials, step-by-step tutorials available for data pipeline. If you are interested, you can follow this. You can see these are the tutorials available. Let me help you out with this. So today I'm going to show you that what are the different options available in this data pipeline console, in this data pipeline dashboard. Okay. So see, if I will take a very simple example, I can choose any template. Getting started using shell command activity. Okay. So first thing is, someone asked me that we want to learn cloud computing. Should we have any prerequisites, or should we have any prior knowledge in some languages, in some programming, in some frameworks in order to start with cloud computing? So I will suggest at least learn basic of Linux. You should have a basic of Linux in order to start in cloud computing. Okay. Because in cloud computing, time to time, we are going to use Linux command. So now think in that way. Right now, this is a laptop from where I am conducting this training. Okay. You must have your machines from where you're taking a training. It can be your mobile, it can be your tablet, it can be your laptop again. Okay. So now you have multiple softwares running on that machine. Similarly, if you're working as a part of a company, for deploying any application, for running any application, we always need a background infrastructure. We always need servers. We always need machines. There can be a possibility that we have to install some software. So I can run CLI commands. I can use some shell command activity. So let's say I have to install Java. Okay. So I am installing particular version of Java. But what I want to do, I want to upgrade the Java version at a particular time, okay, on a machine. So what I can do, I can write a script. Using that, I can patch my server in order to upgrade the latest versions, in order to upgrade the latest patches. Okay. So similarly, there are various templates available you can choose from. If you don't want to choose any template, you can use this. Build using the artifact. You can use this one. So build using the artifact at that point of time, you can build an artifact using drag and drop interface. Let me choose a template. So let's say what I want to do. I want to import or I want to export DynamoDB table to S3. So I have a table running in DynamoDB. Let me show you. If I will open this DynamoDB console and in one tab, I will open S3 console. I can see here, I have a table. This is a table. This is my database, DynamoDB's database, and this is a table, employee table. I can also see there are certain items present into employee table. Now let's say I want to export these items to S3. Okay. So I am creating a data pipeline for that. And if we'll go to S3, let's say this is a bucket I'm going to use. This bucket I'm going to use. Okay. So you can choose a template. Once you will choose a template, it will ask you for the details. What's your table name? My table name is EMP table. What's the output folder? You can choose the output folder. Here you will get a list of bucket. You can choose it from here. Let's say I'm choosing this one, the source. I'm selecting this. This will be my output location. Then you have DynamoDB read throughput ratio. So basically, what is throughput? Throughput is number of queries you are performing per second or number of read write per second. Okay. This is my region, US East one. So in AWS, there is a concept of a region, which is a geographical location. Geographical location means location where AWS has its presence. So think in that way. Like in the traditional world, if currently you are working for a company operating in Chennai, and that company has to expand their business in another location in the world, they will have to do a lot of efforts. They will have to do a lot of planning. They will have to do a lot of surveys and all those things. But if I am in the cloud has a presence in different geographical location, in different global regions. So I can simply choose a region and can start provisioning my infrastructure there. That is also one of the advantage. Okay. So now I'm defining this on pipeline activation means I want to schedule this on a pipeline activation. If you want to run this at a particular schedule, let's say run every day, every minute, every hour, every week, every month, you can choose that. This is my start date. This is my ending date. You can choose never. You can choose after one occurrence, or you can also give the time limit. Okay. So currently here I'm choosing on pipeline activation. Means as soon as I will activate my pipeline, this pipeline will run. Okay. Then we have configuration, logging configuration. In the logging configuration, what will happen in the logging configuration? I want to put the logs. Logs are the messages which will be generated. These can be the error messages. So if you want to enable the logging, you can do that. And you can define the location. You can define the destination where you want to put your logs, put your resulting logs. So let's say if I'm disabling it, it will not ask me for any destination. If you want to enable it, you will have to provide the output folder. Okay. Then there is a concept of IAM role. What this IAM role is? So there is one service in AWS called IAM. The full form of IAM is Identity and Access Management. So basically, this service manages authentication and authorization of AWS resources. Means I'm a user. Okay. I want to interact with AWS service. So am I a valid user who should interact with the AWS service? So that will be done with the help of IAM authentication feature. Means IAM will authenticate my identity, my credentials. Am I a valid user? Once I will be authenticated in the AWS, I will also have to be an authorized user to perform a certain action. Do I have the enough access, enough permission to perform this activity in AWS? Okay. So one thing you have to remember, if two services in the AWS has to interact with each other, they need a role to be attached with them. Okay. So basically here, if you will see in the data pipeline, different services wants to interact with each other. I have to take the table result from the DynamoDB, I have to put that into S3 bucket. And in the background, there will be some servers which is running this logic, which is running this process. So I need IAM rules. Okay. So I'm only showing you how to create a pipeline. I'll not execute this pipeline because we will have to attach the permissions to the IAM role. And as I can see, most of you are new. So I don't want to go into a deep dive with respect to different services for now. For now, I will suggest you that we have different scopes, we have different service categories which you can make use of in order to perform different actions. Okay. So here I have to select two type of role. Pipeline role means the type of access which I'm providing to pipeline so that they can perform different activities on my behalf. And EC2 instance for EC2 is a server. So there will be a server which will be running in the background, which is going to perform this task, which is going to take the logs, take the data present into a DynamoDB table and put that data into the S3 bucket. So I should have the roles configured with the proper permission. I can show you. If I don't have a roles configured with proper permission, I have an option here called add it in architect. So you had seen that there was an option called drag and drop. Had you seen that drag and drop? Drag and drop means what exactly you were it wanted to say. You have a console using which you can create a pipeline using drag and drop feature. So right now I have chosen a template. So that's why it has created this pipeline for me. Okay. It is giving me some warnings. Warning is terminate after is missing. It is recommended to set this to avoid leaving resource running for long duration. Pipeline log URI is missing. It is recommended to set the value on default object for better troubleshooting. So see, if I'll go here, let me see what this property is talking about. It's talking about this. Okay. You can select a period. Let's say terminate about after a minute. After 2 minutes, let's say. Okay. You can also troubleshoot this one. It's saying pipeline log URI is missing. It is recommended to set this value on default object for better troubleshooting. I can, let's say, providing a bucket name. Let me take this bucket name. I'm providing it here. Means I'm providing the log URI. The logs will be added to this particular bucket. Okay. I can save it. Pipeline was successfully saved with no validation error. Activate the pipeline to execute this definition. So click on activate. As soon as you will activate, you will see this because I had set a schedule run on activation. I can refresh this. I can check for the occurrence. So once the pipeline will be executed, I can see the status here as finished. Okay. In the meantime, let's open the QA platform. So basically, the goal of today's session was to make you aware. I had started with the first thing that why companies are planning to migrate to cloud computing. Is there any specific reason that companies wants to adopt the cloud culture? Then I wanted to help you out that there are different service categories available in the AWS. You are a data scientist, you can be a big data engineer, you can be an IoT engineer, you can be a developer, you can make use of AWS in order to integrate all these services. AWS provide you support for IoT, for data analytics, for data scientists, for machine learning, for big data. So you can make use of AWS in order to understand all these services. And data pipeline was one of the service which was again making use of different service categories in order to perform the automation, in order to execute certain tasks. Okay. I will suggest you can start creating your AWS free tier account if you have to start practicing in the AWS how to create and activate AWS account. And then again, you can start with this ramp up guide. You can choose a track you want yourself to be skilled in, to groom yourself. Okay. And then you can see the various documentations available for that particular track. Okay. So this is what from my side. Thanks a lot for being a part of today's webinar. I am done from my side. I really enjoyed this 1 hour webinar with all of you. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye and take care.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Ravi. It was a great session. You have indeed kept us engaged, you, sir. We really look forward to having another session with you soon. So thank you everyone for joining the webinar. It was a great time. You were a great audience. And stay connected to Intellipaat for further more updates. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. That's all for the webinar.